Hello everyone, you are welcome to another edition of Silicon Gist. So Silicon Gist is a YouTube channel whereby we discuss tech content. We are going to be interviewing tech guys so that we can have a forum on tech. And then more so, we are also going to be presenting tech content that has to do with coding and some other areas of development in tech. So so today we are going to center our discussion on introduction to programming. Thank you. So the lecture today is going to be divided into three. The first part is what is programming, whereby we are going to discuss basically the meaning of computer programming. Then the next one is going to why you need to consider learning programming. So this probably will centers around the benefits and the opportunities that are involved in programming. And so perhaps why you may need to also give it a consideration to learn computer programming. So the last part of today's lecture is going to be choosing a programming language, because some of the things that I've realized over the years is that newbies always have problem in choosing which particular programming language, because of course quite a number of programming languages are out there, and then for you to develop a solution you might need to even learn more than one. And interestingly, we have over 100 programming language depending on what you want to build, and that's why it's only become a problem which one are you going to choose. I believe by the end of this lecture you are going to see which one may be suitable for you and why you may need to choose that. So meaning of programming. Computer programming is the process of designing and building an executable computer program to accomplish a specific computing result or to perform a specific task. Actually, this definition was given by Wikipedia. We all know Wikipedia to be an online encyclopedia. However, this definition might seem technical and then not simple enough, and that's why I've decided to break it down. I decided to define it as a way to instruct the machine, which is computer, to perform several tasks in a language that the computer will understand. You may still confused by what are we trying to explain by computer programming. So in case if you are still confused, so let me break it down for you. So the first part of the definition means that you are giving an instruction to the computer. So the instruction is for the computer to perform a task or operations, that means more than one task. Then this task is going to perform using a programming language. So those are the three parts that the computer programming entails. The first part has to do with the instruction. The second part has to do with giving a computer to perform a task. Then the last part is using a programming language. So now, what do you mean by instructing the computer? So this basically means that you provide the computer a set of instructions that are written in a language that the computer can understand. The instruction could be of various types. That the first one is, for example, the instruction can just be for the computer to display hello world on the screen, or for the computer to just beep for a second. I believe you've all seen your traffic lights anytime you go out. Of course, these traffic lights, they have embedded system which make use of computer in them, and then so the program can just be that okay, the yellow light should just blink for let's say 5 seconds. So this is an example of instructing the computer. Then another one is you add one number to another number, and of course this is implemented in calculator and even on our local machine that you make use of calculator. So these are various examples of what we are talking about, giving an instruction from computer. So the instruction can also be that maybe you are sending files from one computer to another. So it's like an instruction. You are instructing the computer to send a particular file from one machine to another. Or probably like I said earlier on, you are printing an hello word on the screen, or just for the computer to beep sound. So all these are examples of giving instruction to the computer. So another one also means that probably this list of instruction involves sequence and procedural steps. So in computing, we call this algorithm. Algorithm is a technical term. What it basically means is that it's like a sequence of instruction that we give computer to perform a particular operation. And then of course this algorithm is also used in some other related tech field like in mathematics, in statistics, so and even in engineering as well. So in programming we build large and complex systems using this instruction following a particular order. Okay, let me try and break this down into pieces. It's just like you want to cook, you know, being a chef or a cook or whatever. So you might decide, let's say you want to cook rice. Of course, cooking rice has a lot of things that it entails, like the procedures and steps that you need to carry out before you can cook rice. So that's exactly what we are trying to say, that in order for you to build a complex systems, it involves series of steps which you have to follow. You have to follow the sequence, and all these steps have to be carried out. In fact, if you omit one, you may not be able to get the desired result. Just the same way it happens when you are cooking, that's the same way it happens here. So these procedural steps are what we call algorithm. And then in order for you to build a complex systems, you need to follow all these steps in sequence. So in order for you to come up with the desired results. So the second part of the definition, like I said, is that you are given the first part is that you are given an instruction. The instruction is to perform several tasks. It can be a task or various tasks. So that is the second part of the definition. And then, like I said, the tasks could be simple ones like adding two numbers, rounding off number, which we all see in calculators, or complex one which may involve a sequence of multiple operations. Like if you are building a website, building a website actually from just a simple hello world on your screen, then to a complex collection of words, pictures, and data that make up a website. So that's exactly what we are trying to explain here. That it could be complex systems like building a website or controlling a robot, because just from the simple blinking of LED to a complex system that actually control robots. And then another one is also building games. So the whole idea is that it can actually range from simple hello world to hello world of Warcraft. So that's exactly what we're trying to explain. So now let's move to the second part of this lecture, which has to do with programming language itself. So programming language, just like for us human beings to communicate to each other, we need to have a medium of instruction. So that's exactly what we are trying to talk about here. That for us to communicate with the computer, for the computer to perform a task, because this is the third part of the definition, they are using a programming language. So this programming language is what we are going to use to communicate with the computer. So programming language is a formal language comprising a set of instructions for computer that produce various kind of tasks. You might have heard about JavaScript, C, Python, C sharp, C plus. So these are examples of programming language, because this is what we are going to. These are like instruction that have syntax and semantics that we are going to use to communicate with our computer. So just like we human beings communicate in different languages like English, Yoruba, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and so on and so forth. So there is also a way whereby we can communicate with the computer, which is by the means of programming language. However, bearing it in mind that it's not as if this C, C sharp are the language that the computer itself understands. Actually, technically, what computer understand is what we call machine language, which is binary language, zeros and ones. But you know, zeros and ones is always very difficult. In fact, majority of programmers nowadays don't write machine language, so they write what we call high level language. High level language is the JavaScript, Java that we all hear. So there is a compiler or interpreter underneath that actually compile all these things for the computer to understand, which will convert it to machine language that the computer will understand. So you don't necessarily have to learn machine language. So what you need to learn is just high level language. So the high level language is what you need to learn, which are the JavaScript, Python, PHP, and so on and so forth. So what is computer programming language? So these are examples. So this is like a diagrammatical representation. So this is an example of high level language. So this is the machine language that the computer itself understands. So there's actually a compiler or interpreter in between, so which will compile it to this machine language for the computer to understand. So these are examples of different programming language. In fact, the most interesting part is that there are a lot of them, lots and lots of them. Just like we have it for human being, whereby we have lot and lot of human languages. So there are lots and lots of programming languages. So depending on which one you are planning to learn or that suits what you want to perform, and we are still coming to that in the later part of this lecture. So we have JavaScript, Python, Objective C, Go, C++, Ruby. So in fact, there are some that have symbols, and which is an example that they have lot and lot of symbols in them, just like PHP. So this is an example of PHP. It has lot and lot of pictures. Then there are some that they actually have lot and lot of symbols and characters rather. So I beg your pardon. So this that's PHP. So it has lot and lot of symbols and characters. While there are some that they actually have very few or not at all, and which is an example of Visual Basic is an example of that. And there are some that they are mostly written in uppercase as in capital letter. And then a very good example of that is COBOL, which is there on the screen. While there are some that they are mostly written in lowercase, which is small letter, which is an example of that is Python, which is here. Second part of today's lecture, why you may need to consider learning programming. Of course, because you might have been hearing programming, but however, do you need to give it a consideration? And this is what this section will discuss, why you may need to consider learning programming. The first point which I would like to present to you is that programming careers have great earning potentials. And anywhere in the world today, programmers are paid extremely well. And then according to statistics here from cofounder.com, so you can have junior developer in the world earns as cool as $66,000, $60,000, while web developer earns like 75,000. That's average salary, because there are some developers that actually earn more than that. Senior web programmer earn like close to $100,000. That's the $99,000. You can see senior web developer, front-end developer in some. So, and in fact, in some countries like in the US, for example, you can see average programmer earn like $90,000. So, while in some other country, you can also see a very interesting figure. And so it shows that programmer earn extremely well. So if you're actually trying to take a look at a career whereby you can earn very well, you can give programming, you can try to consider programming, because programmers, they are well paid. So you can just give it a try and see, and I can assure you that you will never regret it. So you can see top programmers in Silicon Valley make millions of dollars every, especially if you work in FANG, all these big tech companies like Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, and probably Microsoft. All these big companies, they pay developers extremely well. And there are quite few companies you can even start as high as $100,000 per year for an entry level developers. So another point is that programming demands remain strong for coding. So the demand remains strong for coding related jobs. So which means that this is a kind of job that will still be relevant for years to come. So, and according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's BLS. So like 13% of developer will still be relevant. So like five, it shows that the relevance still remains for them, and this is not something that will go anytime soon. So if you are considering, apart from the fact that the salary is cool, so when it comes to in terms of opportunity, that will still be the opportunity for professional that will still be relevant in years to come. So programming is one of programming fields which are like developers, computer programmers, database administrators, software developers. So these are fields that will still remain relevant in years to come. So now another thing is the flexible working condition. Apart from the fact that it gives room for people, different kind of people, in terms of there's no discrimination, age, no discrimination of sex, no discrimination of race, no discrimination of tribe. So, and even if you are in your 40s, or you're maybe let's say in your 30s, so it's kind of feel that still give you opportunity to, if you can learn program, you can also start making your money. So you are not being limited. Age is not a limitation in programming, and that's why you see even people as young as 20, 22, 25 in their, let's say, early 20s or even before 30, they've already made billions. Mark Zuckerberg became a billionaire when he was not up to 30 years. And so there are only very few fields in the world that can give you that kind of opportunity. And that's one thing that programming um, has presented to us. So another point is that programming is fun, yes, because using programming can create your own games. You imagine the kind of fun that comes with that. You can have your own blog page, your own social network sites. You can even have your own search engine. So imagine you can have your own e-commerce sites, just like Amazon, and you can try and develop your own app and put it on App Store or probably Google Play Store. So you can see the kind of fun that comes along with it, and that's why programmers, in fact, some write program like more or less like hobby, and not even like, they don't see it as a job, they see it as hobby. And that's one interesting part of it. And that's why Linus Torvald is the inventor of Linux. I'm very sure you have heard about Linux operating systems, and he was also one of the co-founder of Git. So he said most good programmers do programming not because they expect to get paid or get adulation by the public, but because it is fun to program. And that's why you see most of all these programmers, especially the ones that have made big names, if you try and go through their story, they tell you how they found programming to be fun, and the kind of joy that comes along with it. So another point is that it enhances critical thinking, and that's why programmers are critical thinkers, because programming will enable you to think and think and think. So programming provides tons of opportunity to think differently or deeply about problems and possible solution. The breadth of possibility during the coding creation process allow programmers to practice their critical thinking skills in every programming session. So it's like a field that will not make your brain to be dormant. So you ever you will forever be active, and your brain will be very active, and then it's kind of job that makes your brain to, of course, you won't be dull. So that's one good thing about program, and that's why programmers, they always excel in field any field that you find them, because they are critical thinkers. So, and another thing, if you're also thinking about becoming top CEOs and billionaires, you might also, perhaps you might give programming a good shot, because most of the big companies today, most of their CEOs, they are programmers. And programmers are very strong on strategy. And one of the reasons why it's also easy for them to excel as top executive directors is because of the fact that they are critical thinkers. And then programming will make you to have strong, you'll be able to you'll be able to be very strong on strategy and execution, because you can always break. There is no how big a problem is. Programming will help you to know the fact that, okay, you can always break this big problem into simple chunks, whereby you start dealing with them one after the other till you are going to finish the whole of the problem. So that's one thing about programming. And then programmer can do this work because it is essentially quite a logical thing, because that's what they do every day as a programmer, as programmers. So these are examples of top CEOs. You can see here I have Mark Zuckerberg, which is the co-founder of Facebook. Then here is Bill Gates, which Bill Gates was used to be the CEO of Microsoft before he resigned. Of course, he and Paul Allen, they started Microsoft. This is Elon Musk, which is the second richest man in the world. Elon Musk is the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX. So another one is here is this is Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The two of them were the one that developed Google. So they co-founded Google before they now turn it into a big empire now, which we have as Alphabet. Now they've resigned. So Sundar Pichai is the one taking charge of the company. But this is the richest man in the world. This is Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. So Jeff Bezos, in fact, he even went to school to study computer science. So before eventually, so he learned programming, and then over time, later on, when he resigned, then while he was working, then eventually he founded Amazon, and Amazon has become one of the greatest companies in the world today. Of course, so these are examples of success stories that we have in programming, and that's why it's a kind of field that is very interesting. So don't let me waste time on that. So yeah, you can see Jack Dorsey, you can see Steve Wozniak. So these are examples of people that have become top executives as a result of being programmers. So choosing a programming language. So now this is the third part. Now let's go to the third part of today's lecture. Choosing a language can be quite difficult, yes, because just like telling, probably maybe somebody that is just coming from heaven, and person is coming to the earth, It's not like, okay, which language should I be speaking when I get to it? So most of the time when you look at it, it's a very complex questions. So one, it may depend on the environment you find yourself. For example, if you are coming to Earth, let's say from heaven, you find yourself in, let's say, countries like maybe countries like United States. Of course, you might say, oh wow, this is better for you to learn English because that's probably the language you'll be speaking in most of the places in the United States. So if you are coming to country like maybe a multi cultural configuration, maybe like India or probably like Nigeria. So you might have to give it a reconsideration. So maybe learning one programming language, you have to know which kind of human language, I beg your pardon. So which language should I learn? And at times it even varies based on the location you find yourself. So this is why choosing a programming language at times can be quite difficult. But the best way to go about this, like I said, there is to consider what you intend to build. So just like telling somebody that's coming from heaven to the earth that it depends on what you intend to achieve if you are coming to earth and which kind of area do you want to find yourself, like location. So that's exactly what the kind of analogy we are using here, that okay, depends on the kind of system you want to build, and that will now determine the suitable language for that area. So now I've tried to give a summary of the kind of programming language that suits some particular field. Like now, if you are considering building games, why not? Probably you might need to learn language like C sharp because you probably might be using technology like Unity, or perhaps you can learn language like C plus plus because you might be using technology like Unreal Engine. If you are considering probably developing websites, maybe you are considering building websites, so you may have to consider learning language like JavaScript or probably Python, because JavaScript is very cool, like especially if you are intending probably maybe into front end development, because you might need to learn framework like React. All these ones are based on JavaScript. So apart from JavaScript, there are also other relevant technology that you need to learn if you are considering web development. Perhaps you might learn Python or C sharp, that's the AS.NET framework, then or probably language like PHP, like server language like PHP. Then if you are considering mobile development for iOS, that's Apple, might maybe you can learn Swift or Objective C. Of course, Objective C is now becoming obsolete. I'm sorry to say it's now becoming obsolete. It's not like as popular as it used to be now, because since Apple launched Swift in 2014, Swift has been the demanding language for people that are considering iOS development. Then if you are considering Android development, maybe probably you might need to look at language like Java. But if your own is an enterprise application, maybe you might learn language like C sharp or Java. Or if you are looking at data visualization, you might probably be looking at programming language like Python or R or MATLAB. Or if you probably are considering embedded systems, C or C++ might be the perfect match for you. And then one thing is that some programming language have been with us as far back as 80s, like C, and they are still relevant. While some they are as recent, they are recent language like Swift, for example. Swift came in 2014 and they are still very relevant. So now, personally, I unashamedly I may have to give you some my recommendation, the kind of programming language you may need to learn based on I've actually considered a lot of things here, probably because of the market demand and the fact that this language have been with us for quite a while and they are still relevant, and the fact that this language can actually help you because you can use it in more, in fact more than one field. So I will be starting from below. I actually chose five. So the fifth one, let me start from number five. I actually picked C plus plus. C plus plus is it's been with us for a while and it's been very relevant. And in fact, if you check Stack Overflow, you could see that, and even on Indeed, you see the kind of application for C plus plus. Then the next one is C sharp. C sharp has been with us. It was developed by Microsoft, and ever since then it's been very relevant. In fact, if you are considering either enterprise application or even web development, C sharp is one of the best shot for you. Then the next one, that's the third one on the list, is Java. So Java, since invention its invention in 1993, Java has been one of the relevant programming language. And then in fact it's so powerful, you can use it for building enterprise application. In fact you can even use that server language in web development and even in mobile Android development. So Java is very relevant. So the next one is Python. That's the second one on my list. So Python it has been one of the most powerful programming language, and it's becoming more and more relevant every day. Python is very useful either you are if you are considering area like AI, machine learning, or even in web development, even in enterprise application. It's a very powerful programming language. And the number one on my list is JavaScript, because JavaScript is one, because of the fact that it has lot and lot of vacancies, and JavaScript developer they are one of the highest paid developers in the world. So if you are confused and you don't know the kind of language to learn, I think I will advise that you should learn any of these three programming languages. It's going to help you, and it's going to enable you to be the, one of the best programmers in the world. So thank you very much. So today, this is where we are going to draw the curtain for today's editions on Silicon Gist. So we promise next time we are going to come with some other content. Actually, what we plan to do is that after we've introduced you to programming language, we probably look at one of the area of development. Probably we are considering web development, whereby we're going to take, in fact, several tutorials on web development. We'll be starting from front end to back end. We'll talk about database. We'll talk about different aspects of web development. And then, so if you are just joining this channel, I will appeal to you to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. So we promise that you are going to enjoy the content on this channel. So thank you very much for being with us. So till next time, thank you. Thank you so much.